welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
Family, my name is Darren. I'm an addict. Excuse me. I just want to read this first. God, grant us the knowledge that we may serve according to your divine precepts. Instill us a sense of your purpose. Make us servants of your will, and grant us bond of selflessness, that this may truly be your work, not ours, in order that no addict anywhere need die from the horrors of addiction. Family, I'm Darren. I'm an addict. I'm going to get this out of the way. This is my first convention, and I'm extremely nervous. So, I don't know. I got asked to do this a couple months ago, and I wasn't really, that nervous or anything. I guess I really didn't think about it. And then, the last week, I heard this lady last night, and she put it real good. She got all jammed up, and so I got all jammed up in my head. Am I gonna do all right? Am I gonna sound okay? And but the greatest thing about Narcotics Anonymous and the fellowship is that I have everyone else. I have all you people to be a vehicle for me, with the program and with my higher power, to say, don't worry, Darren, you can do all right. We're behind you, So, I'm just gonna let it out, Sponsorship, two-way street. This is really, really big. I think sponsorship is the core of this program. I know that if I tried to do this thing by myself, that I probably wouldn't be here right now. I probably wouldn't be here right now. Because myself, would try and pick certain steps, do what I want to do, sleep with newcomers, come late, leave early, just do anything, everything that I don't do, everything that I'm totally against, and I need someone to guide me, to show me, to say, this is really, the right way to do it. This is my experience. I need people to tell me. I need predecessors, and I have a sponsor today. I have a sponsor today I can say I dearly love, as a sponsor and as a close friend. I've been in this program for on and off 10 years, and I accumulated a little time a long time ago, and I wasn't using my sponsor. I was just hanging around in the rooms, staying clean, not recovering, just doing the thing, sticking my head in there, looking like I was involved, and then I thought I could drink, and I did, and I said that would be it. And, it brought me to my knees, the whole vicious cycle started again, and it was worse than before. I'm not going to tell you, about how I became an addict, because we all know, how to become an addict, So I'm just going to spare you all that stuff. So I got back into the rooms in June of 2003, and I had a hard time finding a sponsor. You know, I had a couple sponsors in the beginning, and it just really wasn't working out for me. You know, like, you know, I got fired by one of my sponsors, which was kind of hard. But you know, it kind of like hurt inside a little bit, like I felt rejected. You know, like, what did I do? You know, did I do something wrong? I mean, can you tell me? And then I just, you know, I said, okay, you know, I'll go out, you know, I'll get another sponsor. You know, and I got another sponsor. And, you know, I started, working steps, and, I moved on to my sponsor right over there, that gentleman right there, Brian. And, I've known my sponsor for a long time. And, I picked him because, you know, number one, he intimidated me. You know, he always gave me dirty looks, like I thought he didn't like me. And, I knew he had recovery. I knew he had it, you know, because, you know, I don't go around and just say, he's gonna be my sponsor. You know, or she's gonna be my sponsor, or he's gonna be my sponsor, you know. I had to, like, really, like, you know, listen. Go to meetings and listen, you know, and every time, you know, I heard my sponsor, every time I talk to my sponsor, I want what my sponsor has. You know, and, you know, we got right into the step work again, and, you know, with my sponsor, you know, for the first time ever, you know, I completed a 4th step, which I hadn't done previously. And I knew that was something that I was going to have to do. And it was trying, you know. But, you know, I got it done, and I got that relief, and, you know, I had my sponsor there the whole time. You know, whenever I had a question, whenever I had a concern about anything, you know, I could go to my sponsor and I could just ask, you know, what's your experience on this? You know, and he'd tell me. You know, and the great thing I love about my sponsor is that he's a hard ass. He is. I love my sponsor. You know, he's straight and to the point. That's it. And I know I see a lot of faces in here that I know, and a lot of people know me. Like, that's like how I am. You know, it's awesome. I got my roommate right here. He knows that. He knows that about me. You know, I'm just straight and to the point. That's it. You know, because that's, you know, I like to keep it simple. You know, just like, you know, how my sponsor comes to me. You know, and he gives me guidance. It's real simple. It's real straightforward, and that's it. You know, he doesn't sugarcoat anything for me. He doesn't kind of work around it and make me, like, guess and like, you know, go, like, to the lengths of the earth to, you know, figure this out. You know, he tells me, he's like, that's it. You know? And I thought it was going to be a little hard at first, you know, my relationship with my sponsor. And it started off kind of slow, but, like, excuse me, you know, it grew. I mean, it like really grew. And, you know, I for the first time ever, I mean, I kind of say, you know, like me and my sponsor, we hang out. You know, I mean, it's not just about step work and meetings. It's about, like, outside of NA. You know, maybe going to the cigar shop and relaxing and just having some cigars and, you know, and doing what we love doing the most. Fishing. You know, I love it. You know, I love it so much. That's my spiritual awakening, is when I go fishing. My relaxation therapy. and it's great to go out with my sponsor and do that, and just to hang out with them and talk and listen to some relaxing music and just have a good time. That's what the sponsorship is about. Like, I can tell my sponsor anything. I mean, anything that's on my mind. He ain't gonna judge me. He ain't gonna laugh at me. He ain't gonna put me down. He ain't gonna point me somewhere else. He's gonna give me a hug. He's gonna tell me things are gonna be alright. And he's gonna tell me what to do. He's gonna be straight up, and he's gonna tell me what to do. That's why I love my sponsor, because he's like dead on honest, and he's just like, boom, that's it. Like, and then that's what I need. I need that straight up answer. That's just because I'm hard headed. Sometimes it's hard for me to, understand certain things. So, and like, just like, I don't know, I'm still getting over the nervousness a little bit, I feel I'm doing alright inside. I feel a lot better than the last time I shared. I wanna thank the capital area first, for inviting me here and doing this, because this is my area. This is my 5th time to this convention, and it gets better every time. It's a great area. I grew up around here. So back to sponsorship. And with the sponsorship comes, having sponsee brothers. People that I can also talk to as well. And trust. And it's great to have that, because like I've also gained more friendships too. Having sponsee brothers. Love you too, buddy. I mean, just the unconditional love I get that, like, I never ever got, and even when I'm thinking, like, everyone's just saying that because, they just want to make me feel alright, because, I feel self-doubt a lot, is not true. It's not true. As much as, pardon my French, but as much as I'm an asshole sometimes, people still love me. I don't know why sometimes, but, they do. I don't know, because like, because I'm straight to the point. That's it. That's why. That's why, people think I guess I'm stubborn and hard-headed sometimes, because, I just get right down to it, no matter what. Just like I heard last night, about no matter what, not using, no matter what, because that's what it essentially is about, is recovering from this disease a day at a time and not using no matter what. I don't care what happens. Today, nothing is going to make me use, because like I experienced enough for Darren. I mean, everyone else's experiences are different, but mine is mine. I used and, I mean, and in my 4-step, I put down a lot of things that I never thought I'd ever put or tell someone my entire life. And that is probably one of the most humbling things I've done so far in this process, is to lower my guard and trust in a sponsor, and tell them, some of the degrading things I have done, some of the things that made me feel so guilty, some of the things that I'm ashamed for, and let me tell you what, let me tell you how relieved I felt after saying that stuff, after getting it off my chest, knowing that, like, my sponsor said, now you have ownership. Now you know what you did. Now you have to work on it. Now you have to work, on those defects that you have. You have to get better now. And it was great. I did my 4-step over some meatballs and and some Jamaican music, right? Listen to some Jamaican. Yeah, I think it was Bob Marley. It was great. Had a couple cigars. It was a perfect way I wanted it. It just was perfect. Brian was throwing so much crap in this pot to make these meatballs. I don't even know what the hell he was throwing in there. I don't know. But, they were delicious. And, that day was a day that I will never forget in my entire life. Because I was always afraid of the 4-step. Always afraid of the 4-step, saying, I'll never get there. I'll never do it. I'll never finish it. I don't want to write, all this. And people tell it's like 197 pages and, Twitter life up. And I don't want any part of that. And if you don't do it, you're going to get high. Bottom line, I'm proof. I am proof. Luckily, God saw it fit for me to find my way back into the rooms. And this time he helped me make a decision to willingly come to NA. See, the first time I was persuaded. It says in the first step, and it works. How we were persuaded by the courts and by our families. I was persuaded by my mom in order to get back in my house. You got to go to meetings, Darren. Okay, Mom. All right. I can stay clean. It's all right. But this time, when I found the rocks, one of those I nevers. Let me tell you how fast that brought me to my knees. It was, and I've heard stories where, people have done it for like 4 years, 5 years, 20 years, 3 months. 3 months, 90 days I did it for. And it brought me to my knees. Broke, couldn't pay for my apartment anymore. Just out of control. And I was lying in my bed one night and I'm like, I gotta make a change. I gotta do something. This is just not working. And, luckily, a seed was planted in 1996. A seed was planted. I knew about Narcotics Anonymous. I knew where the meetings were. I knew who the people were. I just didn't use them. Like all these free tools and, and these people and these rooms and, and this loving and caring God that I took for granted for so many years, who takes care of me on a daily basis when I don't know it. And that's the key word, when I don't know it, the God of my understanding, just takes care of me, no matter what happens, with everything in life right now. My life is beyond my wildest dreams right now. I finally got the job I always wanted, with the health insurance and everything and the retirement and all the good stuff and the vacation and, I'm back with my family and, I get to tell my sponsor all these great things, I tell him about the good times and I tell him about the bad times. And, and he loves me for it, he loves me for it, no matter what. And I tell you, I know I'm never ever gonna need to change sponsors again. I found my sponsor. And sponsorship is so So important. Like if I don't use my sponsor, you know, I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm running on Darren's will, you know, and I'm just going to do what Darren wants to do, and I'm going to take my own advice all the time, you know, and whenever I take my own advice, 9 times out of 10, you know, it's, you know, something's going to go wrong. Something's going to go wrong, you know. Last night I took my own advice. You know, yeah, I'm gonna tell on myself because, you know, the main speaker last night, you know, she kind of helped that out for me. She kept it real, you know, that's a great thing. People in recovery, you know, you hear these messages and you're like, wow, that's like going on in my life. Wow, like that's going on in my life. And you know what? Yeah, last night, you know, I played cards last night and I didn't follow any suggestions. You know, you know, I took my will back and, you know, God taught me a lesson. But you know what? Like, I felt really bad last night and I prayed a little bit and I woke up and I felt great this morning. You know, and I don't know, you know, just, you know, use your sponsor to the best of your ability. You know, go do the steps with your sponsor, you know. I mean, and who knows, you know, even a friendship, you know, will come out of it, you know, because I was so fortunate, you know, to have like a great friendship with my sponsor, you know, I don't know, it's kind of, I hate because my sponsor's right there. He's like, I don't know if he's judging me. Maybe we'll have a cigar tonight and talk about it, but, all right, Dominic gave me the little signal, so, you know, I'm going to have to cut it down. But, you know, I just want to say that, you know, if no one told you that they love you this morning, you know, because I know it's kind of early and everything, people might have forgotten because everyone's a little tired like me. But I do. I love everyone in this room. I love everyone in Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I love recovery. You know, without recovery, I would not have anything today. Anything, you know, and I am just very, very grateful. Very, very grateful. Thanks for letting me share.
Our next speaker is Brian.
I'm an addict. My name is Brian.
Hey, Brian.
It's a great day to be alive, and I thank God for everything that's happened in my life. I'd like to thank Shakur and Gary, the Capillary Convention Committee, for asking me to come out to share my experience, strength, and hope on sponsorship. Thank you, Darren, for your experience, strength, and hope. I'd like to thank my sponsees and my friends that have come out to support me, and anyone else that invested in their recovery to be at the convention at 10 o'clock in the morning and to be sitting in a meeting instead of up in the room or relaxing. I'm not sure what I'm going to share. I came to Narcotics Anonymous. My first meeting was in 1986, and I didn't have a sponsor for a long time. I picked and chose what I was going to take from the program of Narcotics Anonymous. Sponsorship wasn't one of those things that I needed. I just needed to stop using dope. Complete abstinence wasn't something that I needed. You know, it was, there were certain drugs that were causing a problem, and I didn't know that there was a possibility of complete abstinence from all mind and mood altering substances. What I tried to do was work the program the way that I wanted to work it. I eventually got clean. And I guess about a year before I got clean, I had asked a man to sponsor me, and he was actively trying to sponsor me while I was still using. You know, he would listen to me a little bit. When I finally got clean, he asked me, I said, okay, let's do some work here. And he said, okay, I want you to write on, I think it was Just for Today, Living the Program, the chapter. And I said, well, I want to write on steps. And he says, no, read Just for Today, Living the Program, and Who is an Addict. And I looked at him and I said, you know, I want to work a first step. And he says, well, I'm your sponsor. And I looked at him again and I looked up. I said, well, if you want to sponsor me, you're going to have me write on the first step, or I'm going to find somebody that will. And I'm saying that because I want to say, don't be afraid to let your sponsor know what it is that you need. Because, like, I had been to enough meetings. The last 4 years of using, I went to meetings almost every day. I heard a lot of people talk about the steps and the spiritual principles. And look, I was using, but I wasn't deaf. And I heard the difference between people that worked steps and people that didn't work steps. I didn't write on who was an addict. I knew who an addict was. I was drinking Southern Comfort when I was 12 years old. By the time I was 16, I was shooting coke and speed. You know, I used for 23 years, 20 of those years shooting drugs, right? I was physically beat down as a direct result of my using. I broke all the bones in my wrist here, titanium pins and clips in my shoulder holding it together, 8 broken ribs, 2 back fusions, breaking the double fusion, 4 herniated disc above the fusion, 5 operations on my knees, ruptured spleen, all directly related to my using. I got arrested once or twice a year directly related to my drug use, you know, usually possession, but I ended up with 3 felony convictions for distribution. I abandoned everything in my life for the need to get one more. I hurt the people that loved me. I tried many times to try to control my drug use. I know if I only shoot dope every 3 days, it'll be fine. I'll be okay, right? I know, maybe if I switch and I do this combination and that combination, if I go to detox every 3 weeks, it won't be that bad, right? Because I'll get cleaned up for a few days. So I tried all this and it didn't work. I was in touch with who was an addict, so we compromised and I started writing on steps. For reasons of trust, I switched sponsors going into a 4th step. I didn't have the trust that I needed. I found out that it was not anything to do with him. It was completely my stuff, and I could have trusted him, but I needed to feel the trust for me to do a 4th step. And I switched sponsors, and I've had that sponsor since. Sponsorship, a two-way street. I've had probably somewhere between 50 to 100 men ask me to sponsor them in the last 10 years. I have a lot of sponsees today, nowhere near that number. And the reasons are, and Darren, you know, thanks for sharing, you know, Darren said a lot about who I am, and it's absolutely true. I don't have time for the garbage. I don't. Don't come to me with bullshit. Life is too precious. I don't have that much time to listen to, well, I can't get to a meeting. You know, the excuses why you can't get to a meeting. And I look at my own experience, hobbling around on a cane for 10 years, not having a driver's license. My first year I went to 2 or 3 meetings every day except for Sundays. I went to 5 meetings. Without a driver's license, hobbling around on a cane. And I have sponsees, people that would ask me to sponsor them and say, well, I just can't get to a meeting. I have this going on. I have that going on. Right? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I have people that have called me up and start complaining about their lives. And they just want to complain. And I'll say, well, did you get to a meeting? They says, well, no, but this has been going on. Did you write on your step work? Well, I didn't have time because I've been kind of upset about this, or I had this to do and I had that to do. And I'll tell them flat out, I tell you what, don't waste my time. I don't know how to stay clean, anything other than going to the meetings, following some direction from my sponsor, writing on steps, trying to apply some spiritual principles. You're not willing to do that. I may not be the person that's capable of sponsoring you, right? If you're going to ask me to be your sponsor, I know how to stay clean by doing what I do. I continue to go to 4 to 7 meetings a week. Can I do less? Probably. Am I willing to take the chance that it may not sustain my recovery? No, I'm not. I'm not willing to take the chance that I'll end up back in the gutter. So I make meetings. I write. I call my sponsor. I talk to my friends that I trust and share anything with them. And I let them know where I'm at. And most of all, I apply spiritual principles. I show up for life. A lot of times my discomfort and intolerance and inability to put up with bullshit is because I've lived it for so long. You can't come to me with an excuse that I haven't used at some point in my life. I hear it when I see it when I hear it. And I'm real quick to point it out. Am I a cold sponsor? No. I love my sponsees. And I have somewhat of a sick sense of humor. Yesterday was April Fool's Day. And I was calling my friends and sponsees and doing these April Fool's jokes. I got arrested, yet bail. I'd come up with this big story. I have one sponsee that I love dearly, and he had some clean time. I've been sponsoring him for a few years. He's been around about 5 years, and he had some clean time, and he's relapsed and come back and relapsed and come back and relapsed. And he calls me often to tell me that he's using and he plans on getting clean. And it hurts. It hurts. I love this man like a brother. So I called him last night. Told him, you know my situation with my financial problems. Well, the other day I got evicted. And I said, screw this, and I went out and drank. And I'm not a drinker. I need some dope, and I know that you would know where to get it. I'm ready to say April Fool's, and his cell phone goes out of reception. Now it's about 7 minutes before I can get back to him. And I'm saying that was a bad joke. That was a bad joke. And I'm trying to call him. I'm trying to call him. I finally get hold of him. And he says, oh man, I'm driving down the road. I'm crying. You call and you tell me you relapsed. I thought it was true. And I'm crying. I'm just driving. I didn't know what to do. And I said, yeah, now you know how we feel. I don't know why that happened. Maybe it happened for a reason. I know there was a lot of events in my life that I didn't get clean at that point, but it was something that I would never forget. And it all led up to me being able to get clean. Sponsorship is a two-way street. I do step work with my sponsees. I have a lot of sponsees. When I'm out until 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but I made an appointment to be at the coffee shop at 8 o'clock in the morning to go over step work, I expect my sponsees to be there. Not to call them and say, well, I was tired. I stayed out late. Well, I did too, but I made a commitment. Right? The commitment that I have isn't because I want to be seen in Narcotics Anonymous. I want people to say, look at Brian, he's got all these sponsees and he does this and he does that. That's not where my commitment lies. My commitment lies with the fact that no addict anywhere need ever die from the horrors of addiction. I was a hopeless, dying junkie. No hope that life would ever be any different. And my sponsor was there for me. And other people have been there for me. And my commitment to sponsorship comes from that. In the chapter, What Can I Do? experience shows clearly that those who get the most out of Narcotics Anonymous program are those who take sponsorship important, to whom sponsorship is important. I want more of the blessings that I've been given in Narcotics Anonymous, and I take sponsorship, and it's very important to me. I call my sponsor regularly. He's a very busy man. At one point in his life, he had 3 jobs and going to school full time. But I made a point to call him. And when he was just too busy to call me back, it was my job to call him up again and say, you want to know something? This is important. You need to get back to me. We can't be afraid to tell our sponsors what we need. You may not be right. I've told them I needed things that I didn't need, right? But when I need to be a sponsor, I need to let them know this is important to get back to me, right? It's also important to be a sponsor. Sponsorship is a two-way street. How can I guide sponsees through the 12 steps and I'm not living them? How would that make me feel? How am I going to tell somebody you need to be aware of your defects? You need to see what defects are motivating you in your life when I'm not looking at mine. Sometimes sponsors get put on a pedestal, right? Can't be done. Can't be done. You want to put us on pedestals, you'll find fault with your sponsor. I found out with my sponsor's human. My sponsees find out. There's times I tell my sponsees right up front, you need to get a network. You need to have other men in your life, somebody that you can talk to, because sometimes I don't have the time. I have a full life, and I might not have the time to talk to you every time I see you. And sometimes life is happening for me, and I'm not available. Most recently, this year's been a little difficult. I've had some financial difficulties. At one point, I was falsely accused of a felony. And I went to all my sponsees and said, look, man, I'm going through some things, right? Because I'm real angry. And they've had to utilize other people for that period. I've been looking at financial difficulties again. Was looking at maybe a possible eviction. It's not because I don't show up for my life. I do the best that I can, and life just happens. And my rent's paid. It's been paid. It's not about not paying the rent, right? It's not about anything else other than the management association. But I've been off-center. I've been very stressed out, working 16, 18 hours a day. And my sponsees have had to use each other and other men. And it's important to understand that sponsors are not always going to be there for every minute, and that we have life too, and it's life on life's terms. It's not because we have some years clean and that we're the sponsor that it gets, everything's all cool. What I do, and I know I do this isn't some kind of theory or anything. I have the ability, the best sponsorship that I receive is from the example of my sponsor. The best sponsorship that my sponsees get is through the example of me. In the midst of a storm, I can have some peace. Darren talked about Fisher. You want to know something? Life gets real busy. If I don't get out on that boat and cast out a few times, some time to just quiet down my mind, I'm not going to hear God's solutions for what it is that I need to do. I need to take the time to reflect on my life and what it is that's going on. If I keep my life so busy, and I think as addicts we do this a lot, we fill our lives up with so much stuff that we don't have time to even take a look at ourselves. If I don't stop to take a look, if I don't stop for that quiet time, if I don't meditate, if I don't ask for God's help, how am I going to get what it is that I need? I teach my sponsees that. Most of them have been out fishing with me, just to show them what I do. And so what I've learned here is that, like, I need to continue to use my sponsor. It's absolutely a two-way street, right? My sponsor and I were more, we don't sit down and talk deep issues of Narcotics Anonymous. We sit down and we talk about life and our difficulties with dealing with life on life's terms. And that's where my sponsees are becoming, that it's not so much the ones that have worked 12 steps and are getting through the 12 steps, now working traditions. We sit down and we talk about life and what are the struggles and the challenges and the goals that we have, and we just sit and talk, and the sponsorship comes through that. It's no longer, as my sponsor calls it, armpit recovery, where you need to grab somebody, put them under your arm, and show them day by day what it is that they need to do, right? I just got the sign that to close it up. I believe in men sponsoring men. We have some new literature out, and there's some examples in the new literature. And I do want to say this. I don't think Narcotics Anonymous is wrong when they show examples like that. If you live in Upper Canada and there's only 5 recovering addicts in a 50-mile radius, you may need to ask somebody of the opposite sex. I'll say this. Here in New Jersey, with as many recovering addicts as there is absolutely no reason for me to search for a woman to sponsor me. And it would only be ego or manipulation for me to say okay to sponsor a woman. And that's my experience and my beliefs with that. As addicts, we tend to read something in the literature, don't look at the whole picture, and just run with it because it seems easier. It might be a little controversial. I believe in Narcotics Anonymous. I believe the experience of addicts. I believe in our literature, right? And I believe that's put in there for special circumstances. If you live in New Jersey, I don't think you need to do anything other than find somebody of the same sex and ask them to guide you through life, through the 12 steps, and give you a little bit of experience with recovery. A sponsor's job is not to be a dictator. Work the steps, don't work the steps. I really don't care. Just don't come to me with some shit if you're not. Go to meetings, don't go to meetings. I really don't care. But you're wasting my time if you want to learn how to live, because that's not how I learned how to live. I don't believe Darren talked about his 4th and 5th step. I did what my sponsor did for me. I didn't tell him those defects need to be worked on. I said, if you can't live with those defects, because what's a defect for one person may not be for another person. And he can't live with them. Let's keep moving. Let's do some work. Sponsors aren't dictators. I don't tell people what they have to do. Outside of the realm of what I've done in Narcotics Anonymous, it allows me to be who I am. Look, I feel blessed. I want to thank everybody for sitting and listening. That's all I have.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. NAPOD is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to napod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.